What on earth is a communist in the year 2022? Do they still actually exist? And are there active communists sitting in high-profile positions in the US government today? Spoiler alert, yes and yes. Who are they and what on earth are they doing and why? Well, to get answers to that, I'm talking with my favorite Kiwi communist expert, Trevor Loudon. And no, he is not a kiwi fruit. We Australians, we Aussies, call New Zealanders Kiwis. They call themselves that too, after the cute little flightless kiwi bird native to the beautiful islands of New Zealand. But for those of you who know Trevor Loudon, he is absolutely no little flightless bird. He is an absolute powerhouse on exposing the threat of communism all around the world, but especially in America. And his new book, Security Risk Senators, Parts 1, Part 2, you need to be getting this information before you vote in the midterms. Really, really important. We're talking about 30% of sitting US senators, and some of them up for re-election right now. You need this information. It's very important, but we also have a whole ton of solutions and positivity, because when you're working on this stuff and you see the real threat, you also make sure that you find out what you can do about it. Stay tuned. You are watching the Today with Kay show, and I'm Kay Rubacek. How is your coffee supply? Is your coffee really 100% organic and roasted right here in the US? Well, Freedom First Coffee is. It's a gourmet coffee roasted in Victorian-era roasters in the heartland of the USA. Their tagline is, tastes like freedom. I do not know what freedom flavor exactly really is, but I can say it tastes great. I drink it myself. I would like to invite you to give it a try. Go to freedomfirstcoffee.com. That's freedomfirstcoffee.com. Use the promo code K, K-A-Y, for a discount. And that will also support this show. I like to say we vote with our dollars, so buying your coffee from Freedom First Coffee is a delicious way to vote for freedom. And if you already have your own favorite coffee, don't worry, because you can buy me a virtual coffee. Go to my website, kayrubacek.com. That's RUBACEK.com. Click on Coffee with Kay. You can buy me a virtual coffee to help keep this show going, support independent creators like myself. Every coffee counts, and I promise I will drink one and think of you. Trevor, thank you so much for joining me today. I like to call myself a foreign patriot, if I may, in America, and I don't know, is that a term that you might use for yourself? What do you?
Well, I think so, Kay. You know, we all understand, if we're from Australia or New Zealand or Canada or Britain or many other countries, we all know that if America goes down, we'll be next. So we all admire America. We all admire the Constitution, and most of us are only free. In Australia, you were threatened by the Japanese army in World War II. So was New Zealand, and it was the Yanks that saved us.
We forget that, don't we? I mean, that's not something that Australians are thinking about too often, I think.
No, the older generation still remembers, but the younger ones haven't been taught that. But yeah, I was just back home in New Zealand. In June, my dad's 89 years old. He was a little boy in World War II. Had the Japanese invaded, I wouldn't be here. So it's personal. Anybody who cares about liberty has to care about the United States.
Do you find that there's been, with that, the recent education, certainly in Australia, how I was educated, I was taught to love McDonald's and Hollywood movie stars and drink Coca-Cola, but I was taught to look down on America and the American people. Even people said to me, don't go to America, you might become like the Americans. And I was like, what's that? What does that mean?
How about it?
Yeah, we're kind of given those two sides, but we're not thinking about where's that coming from,
Well, yeah, we're taught, we're all into the American music. We watch American TV and the American culture. But we're not taught to respect the American government. We're not taught to respect what made America great. I remember when I was a little kid, my parents held the American president in the highest esteem. It was just because because it was America. America saved us. America was the leader of the free world. But by the time I was a young adult, that had been pretty much brainwashed out of the kids, and it's well gone now. So we look to the American culture, but we cannot look to the American government, because things like gun ownership and constitutions and freedom of speech, that's just all crazy stuff. We shouldn't have that in Australia and New Zealand.
And being an outsider, I think I feel like sometimes I have an advantage. And also being Australian, and I think you're the same, you Kiwis, we're kind of straight shooters compared to a lot of Americans and just saying things as we see them. And I find like in America, sometimes I get frustrated when the wonderful American people are trying to sugarcoat things and not say it as it really is. Do you find this is a problem when you're trying to really make a difference?
Well, yeah, I think it is. We live in the freest, richest, uh, most benevolent country the world has ever seen, and that breeds a little bit of complacency and a little bit too much niceness. People don't want to ruffle feathers. You've got a virtual political civil war going on in this country, and people say, "Oh, no, we don't want to offend the other side. No, we don't want to say anything too harsh." Well, that time is gone. This country is on the verge of being lost. People have got to say truth. Only truth that's my mantra at the moment. Only truth can save us now. And to say the truth, you got to have courage. And to have courage, you have to have faith. As America has got more and more godless, Americans are telling less and less truth. And even those who would claim to be religious, they tend to be this loving, gentle type of love. So the time is for thumping the tables now. The time was for saying it like it is. This is the time for Maggie Thatchers and Winston Churchills and Donald Trumps. It's not the time for Jeb Bushes and people like that any longer.
Oh, I love that. We need some big table thumping love going on in America. You are
Absolutely.
you are listening to Trevor Loudon, and I am Kay Rubacek. This is the Today with Kay show, and we will be back in just a moment. Are you interested in investing in gold to secure your finances? If you've been listening to any conservative podcast over the past few years, you would have heard plenty of ads for gold investment, and it is popular and it is important. And if you're thinking about it but haven't done it yet, there's still time. With the way the economy is looking right now, we need to do whatever we can to stay ahead of the coming recession. Now, I recommend you go and talk to Ira at ourgoldguy.com. Mention my name and he'll give you sound advice. Make your own opinion. Go to his website, ourgoldguy.com, and take a look at the articles he publishes there, the information he's putting out. See if it resonates with you. I think you'll be glad that you did, that you talked to him. Talk to Ira at ourgoldguy.com and see if he is someone you want to work with to invest in gold. I want to read a short section from your new. Imagine you are the leader of an enemy nation who hates America and burns with a passion to take this country down. What would you do? Would you risk a multi-billion-dollar trade war, which might hurt your own economy and turn your people against you? Would you start a shooting war that might escalate beyond your ability to control it? That might cost trillions rather than billions and that you might lose? Or would you simply spend a few $1,000,000 to buy or compromise enough senators and Congress members, maybe even the president, so that you can effectively influence the US government to your advantage? Who is going to stop you? I'm giving everyone a spoiler alert here. I would like you to give us a spoiler, Trevor, and tell us what's going on in your new books and why everyone must read them.
Okay, thank you, Kay. It's called Security Risk Senators, Part 1 and Part 2. And each part profiles 15 serving senators, so 30 in total, Current serving United States senators exposing their ties to communist China, to Iran, to communist Cuba, and to the local Marxist and radical Islamic movements. So what I'm saying is about, or to
Hold on,
salute
hold on.
stamps.
30. There's only about 100 senators in the US, right?
That's right. So you're talking well over a third of the senators. And these are, a spoiler alert, these are all Democrats or independents, by the way. Not saying the Republicans are blameless, but the most obviously communist ones are Democrats. And so what I'm saying is this: they couldn't pass a background check. They are working with the Iranians. They're working with the Chinese. They're working with local communists. And they're working to destroy the country. But there's no background checks on them. There's no background checks in the US Senate. The FBI is too compromised to go after them. So they can work with America's enemies with almost complete impunity. And the only thing that will bring them down is public exposure and an informed voting public to get these people out of office. And we haven't got much time to do it. Several of them are up for election in a few days' time.
What is a communist today in 2022? Because people say, well, communism was long gone. It died with the Berlin Wall when the Berlin Wall fell in 1989, which, we know isn't the case. But when you're calling someone a communist, how do you quantify that?
Yeah, good question. Well, the Chinese Communist Party, by its own name, is communist. And people look at it and say, well, it has free enterprise and that sort of thing. So it's not really traditionally communist. That's a misunderstanding. The old Soviet communism we saw was one form of communism. Marx himself said that private business would be part of communism for some time. It's part of the process you have to go through. And the Chinese made a big mistake trying to go straight from feudalism to socialism with missing out the capitalist stage. And they went back. They realized the mistake and went back. And now they're back on the socialist road. They're advancing. A communist is someone who believes in destroying the United States Constitution and destroying the constitutional protections we have, destroying the private sector and the middle class in this country to institute a new top-down socialist society. So you have a whole bunch of senators who are working with the Chinese, who are working with the Cubans, and American communists from the Communist Party USA, from Democratic Socialists of America, which is a communist organization, Liberation Road, which is another communist organization. Liberation Road, by the way, gave us Black Lives Matter. People don't understand Black Lives Matter is a communist organization. There's an example for you right there.
Matter. Do you think that they are dupes, that they've just been duped to not knowing the communistic ties behind these organizations like the Black Lives Matter organization? Or do you think they're doing it intentionally?
The vast majority of them are fully conscious. Many of our senators were former, been involved in Communist Front activities for years, for decades. Many of them are knowingly working, like Dianne Feinstein, for instance, a senator from California, who was head of the Senate Intelligence Committee for many years, has been working first with the pro-Soviet communists since 1955, and then the pro-Chinese communists from the 1980s. She had a Chinese spy in her office. When he was caught, she said, he was my driver. He was her office manager, her highest paid staff member. He was getting Defense Department documents across his desk. Yes, these people know.
Any friends listening, when you go and get Trevor's book, you're going to see the pages and pages and pages of footnotes at the end. So there's so many examples and photographs and explanations on each individual senator. And the evidence is just damning. Go and research and fact check it yourself. Like that example of Dianne Feinstein and her supposed driver. I mean, that's a lie, right? It was a lie. She was caught out, but she wasn't held to account by anyone for lying. I think it's this I find that the American people, really a lot of people in general, are just good people, and they find it hard to believe that someone would just be lying directly to their faces. But this just seems to be a common thread among those who are practicing communism in a way. How do you help people understand to recognize that, like, they are just lying to your
Well,
face?
well, this is the big problem, isn't it? Because Americans are, you live in the freest, richest country. You're a very benevolent people. You're a very trusting people. Most Americans can't understand evil. They've never encountered it in a big scale in their lives at all. Ask somebody from Cuba, ask somebody from Romania, ask somebody from Albania or East Germany or China who fled communism and now lives here. Ask them if they see communism around us. They're tearing out their hair. They're saying, these silly Americans, don't they understand the country's in a revolution? What I fled from in China or Cambodia or Vietnam is here now. It's in the Democratic Party. It's even in parts of the Republican Party sometimes. We are in a revolution. The destruction of the economy, the lockdowns, Black Lives Matter, stolen elections, it only makes sense in the context of a foreign directed intelligence operation, a revolutionary process going on in this country.
Friends, if you want to understand the chaos going on around you, if you get confused by all the news narratives and things that you just see and think, how is that possible here in America? You need to get Trevor Loudon's books and movies, and you're going to be able to understand a lot better. I am so happy to be talking with him today on the Today with Kay show. My name's Kay Rubacek. We're going to be right back. Can you tell us, what is the revolution that we're in right now? Like, don't tell me. Tell the American people who don't see it. What is the revolution, and who is carrying it out? Because it's foreign actors, isn't it? It's foreign agents that are really taking
Yeah.
advantage.
You look at the radical LGBTQ movement, which is screwing up families all over the country. That is a communist movement that was founded by Harry Hay of the Communist Party USA. You look at the open borders movement, which is wrecking the southern states right now. The whole that's an operation started by the Communist Party USA and Democratic Socialists of America to flood this country with so many left-wing voters you can never elect in conservatives again. It is being promoted by the Communist Chinese. It's been promoted by the Communist parties of Latin America. They regard the open border, as a way of destroying this country. You look at the Chinese biological warfare weapon, COVID, which decimated the economy right in election year, designed to hurt President Trump, Communist China's biggest enemy. And then you look at the lockdowns. Well, the lockdowns, you'll find that the states with the heaviest lockdowns and the most, the biggest restrictions are all the states with the most Chinese influence. I'm talking communist Chinese influence. I'm talking California, Oregon, Washington, Illinois, Washington, D.C., North Carolina, Massachusetts, New York, etc. And then you find Black Lives Matter, another Chinese operation, which went rampaging through your cities, no accountability. And then you found a whole bunch of election irregularities, much of it organized by pro-Chinese voter registration organizations, organized out of the Chinese consulate in San Francisco. So we're in a war to bring America to its knees. And then just to add insult to injury, 80,000 American kids dead of fentanyl in the last few months. Chinese fentanyl, deliberately shipped to this country. Communist China knows everything that happens in that country. Do you think that Chinese fentanyl would be coming here if the CCP didn't know about it? Don't you think the CCP could stop it if it wanted to? But it doesn't, because that's 80,000 young men and women who will never serve in the US military to defend this country.
there's someone behind, there's people behind this whole war, as you put it. But if we could classify the types of Americans that are aiding this war, there's those who are doing it knowingly, there's those who are doing unknowingly. How can people help identify what they're doing to either help or not help, and identify the people around them who may be involved in this?
Well, the first step, get the book, Security Risk Senators, both books, and make sure you vote accordingly in the next election. You know, if you're in Arizona, Mark Kelly has extensive ties to the CCP and to Iranian operatives, hardcore Iranian operatives. If you're in Georgia, Raphael Warnock has a communist history going back to his teenage years. Hardcore Marxists. He's worked with them his entire political life. You've got to make sure you're not inadvertently voting for a traitor. So, but if you look at it, this is the old Soviet Union tried to take America down, but the only way they could do it was get sympathetic communists to work their way into the government and sell secrets or betray the country or etc. The Chinese do that as well. They have secret sympathizers who believe in communism, but they also have tons and tons of money. So the people they can't get through ideology, they compromise through money. China effectively controls Hollywood now. The Communist Party of China effectively controls Wall Street. Wall Street is completely in bed with the CCP, and Wall Street funds both political parties, so they have a lot of leverage there. Most of the universities now are taking CCP money, they rely on CCP, Communist Party students. The Chinese Communist Party is even involved in preschool education in your country, kindergarten kids, through the Ericsson Institute based out of Chicago. So you're looking at big tech, which is completely in the pocket of China. You're looking at big sport through Nike, which collaborates extensively with China, which is why sport is all going so woke, because it's of the Chinese influence. Ratcliffe, Trump's intelligence advisor, said the Chinese had compromised so many US politicians, they could determine which legislation passes the Congress and which doesn't. And you've got a lot of the major media organizations who subsist on Chinese advertising. The Washington Post takes tons and tons of CCP advertising. So they're not going to criticize the Communist Party of China. So you've got the business constituency, Wall Street, a lot of academics and journalists are on their side, tons of politicians, but also many scientists and researchers have also been compromised by CCP money. Like in Britain, there's a big problem right now. Former Royal Air Force pilots are going to train Communist Chinese Air Force pilots, and they're having to clamp down on that. Chinese money, CCP money, buys a lot of influence and a lot of power.
It's so true, and recently there was also an American pilot who was maybe subpoenaed or something in Australia for doing
yes
the same thing, right? So it's like there are so many people that get caught up in the monetary gains, these short-term gains, right? For taking the money and thinking, people often say to me, but China's okay. I was there and I was fine, and everything was just great. And that's where I think the distinction is. China is not the Communist Party, and the Communist Party is not China, and it's certainly not the Chinese people either.
Well, that's right. You can go to Vegas and have a great time, but you're not hanging around with the mafia, are you? Who used to control Vegas for decades. Well, there's one thing going to Vegas and playing a few slot machines. There's another thing when you're a business person in Vegas and the mafia comes and takes over your business or intimidates you into paying them money. Yes, the tourist who goes to China sees the culture, sees the best of China, but don't get compromised. Inviting the CCP into your country is like inviting the mafia into your country. Yes, you'll make a little bit of money, but they will corrupt your kids. They will sell drugs to your kids. They will corrupt your businessmen and politicians. They will shake you down. They will take over your state. It's a devil's bargain. The CCP is the most malevolent and evil organization on the face of the earth right now. We should be getting it out of America, not inviting it in, and we certainly shouldn't be electing senators and congressmen in the CCP's pocket.
So people who are in the CCP's pocket, they've been corrupted. They are either knowingly or unknowingly being traitors to the American founding and what has made this nation. How do we fight that type of corruption when this is on such a massive scale where it's the whole force of the world? It sometimes feels like it's the whole force of the world coming down here. How do we push back on that? How do we make a change? How do we become incorruptible?
Okay, this is what I would do if I was the next patriotic president of America. And you got to understand, the CCP feared President Trump because they knew he was working with Japan and Taiwan and Australia and India to starve out the CCP. He would have done to them, had he got another term, what Reagan did to the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. So the CCP had to take him out. But this is what we do if we elect another conservative president. First thing, you set up a new intelligence agency, and you have it led by people who left the CIA, the FBI, etc., in the beginning of the Obama administration. So they're not tainted. So they're patriots. And you vet them and vet them and vet them. Then you bring in a whole bunch of new people from special forces, from the technical institutes. So you've got a unit of a few hundred people, and their job is to ferret out foreign influence in the United States. It's foreign spies, foreign agents of influence, Russian mafia, foreign criminals, foreign influence only. Then the president declares a 3 months amnesty. You got 3 months. If you're a Russian agent, if you're a Chinese businessman corrupting senators, if you're stealing defense blueprints from a corrupt contractor, American or foreign, you've got 3 months to either leave the country or to come forward to this new agency and spill your guts. Tell everything you know. Rat out your former comrades. If you come forward within 3 months, you'll get escape prosecution, you'll be required to testify in court, but you won't go to prison. If at the end of 3 months you haven't come forward, we're coming after you, and if we catch you, you get 30 years in jail. You imagine the impact that would have on every foreign intelligence network in the country. You'd see a whole bunch of senators and congressmen stand down for family reasons. You'd see thousands of Chinese agents leave the country. Russian mob would sell their mansions in Miami and go back to Russia. Shady Iranian businessmen would move out. But you'd have a whole bunch of people coming forward because a lot of people, as you say, get seduced. They might get caught in a shady liaison on a business trip to China. Their family may have been threatened. They might have gotten to a business deal that they don't understand the full implications of. They got hooked. They want a way out. They know they're betraying the country, but they're trapped. Amnesty gives them a way out. As long as they testify, as long as they tell what's going on. You get the traitors to rat each other out. Doing that would clear out thousands of traitors. You wouldn't have to fire a shot. You would prosecute a few, probably not that many, but the American public would finally understand just how deep the treason is, how many of their leaders have been compromised. There would be thousands of people exposed in this. A few hundred may be prosecuted. That is the way to clean out the scum. That's the way to clean out the traitors. And you wouldn't have to fire a shot.
All right, thanks. Not having to fire a shot, offering amnesty, but holding people accountable, cleaning out the scum. Yep, I love it. If you're looking for solutions, you just heard what Trevor's solution is. And what you can do in the meantime is you can stop being confused by what you're seeing on the news and look deeper behind to the foreign influence connections that the media have, that all of the organizations have, that all of the agendas that the organizations that are controlling the agendas. Don't get fooled by what's on the surface. Get Trevor's books. You'll be able to follow through on the footnotes, and you'll see you can trace it back to the foreign influence, to the communist influence, and you see the threat is real, but the problem is solvable. Thank you for tuning in today. This is the Today with Kay show. Oh, if you are listening to this on a podcast, please click the 5-star review button. I would really appreciate that. That's what the algorithm's like. They don't like anything less than a 5-star. If you're not enjoying the show, thanks for listening through this far. That's awesome. Don't give me a rating. You don't need to. I will never be offended, I promise. And if you're listening or watching on Rumble or YouTube or anywhere else, please hit the like, subscribe, follow, all that stuff. I really appreciate that, helping me to grow the channel and keeping this information coming out for free to the public as often as possible. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time.